Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Sinners. This is Ryan Coogler's fifth film, I believe, and it is his big blank check movie. His first sort of original film, although you could say, he did actually develop Creed. No one asked him to make Creed. He came to them with Creed and Fruitvale Station. But either way, this is the first film that's completely original. It's not based on anything. It's not based on a previous franchise. It's not a comic book. Completely his own. I think it's his big sort of auteur movie. You could say his other movies very much had auteurism to it, obviously, but it's sort of his big auteur statement. Or it's his big statement as a director. It's his big original movie as a director. This is sort of his, in a lot of ways, I actually sort of think this is like his Magnolia or his New York, New York or something like that. But it's not, it's kind of different because I think Ryan Coogler is a guy who watches big movies for the most part. And I don't mean that as a takedown. I mean that as someone because he's very good at using those influences. But this both shows that someone who understands horror, who understands blockbuster, understands a lot of things about filmmaking, as well as someone who gets playing outside of that, who's seen a fair amount of art films, who's seen a fair amount of silent films, who's seen various things from film history. And this is such a culmination of so many things. It's kind of hard to see this and not look at it as like something, the thing that all of this has been culminating to. I don't mean that to say that I think it's his best movie. I don't presently, although I honestly really do want to see it again. But this is a really fascinating film. And I think it's really interesting how people are so into it and he is so himself at the same time. How Ryan Coogler gets the audience to care is something I think in our modern age, I rarely see filmmakers do as well as he does, as nakedly as he does, and in ways that I feel like most filmmakers would crumble or be too obvious with. He's able to bridge that gap and make it feel so earned and like a perfect moment. I'm always kind of surprised at what he can do as a director. It's just incredible, and I feel like that is as true in this as it is throughout the rest of his filmography, and he has a very, very good filmography. Sinners is about two identical twin brothers who were both worked for Al Capone and the mobs in Chicago, and were World War I veterans, as were most of those mob guys, as this is 1932 when this took place. They've come back to their small town in the Mississippi Delta area. I guess I don't know that area, but around that area. And they've come back to make a jute joint. They buy an old sawmill and then start recruiting everyone to help out with the jute joint. And if you've seen a trailer, and I don't believe this is a spoiler, vampire shit happens. This movie really takes its time, which I was like, what? It felt weird because, Black Panther or Creed or all those things are like very well purposely paced like a big movie is, you know what I mean? And in this one, while I was watching it, I noticed he's just like going through the town. We see they have a cousin who's good at guitar. We see, they want to get this. You see they want to meet up with their old loves. The two twins, both played by Michael B. Jordan. You see them doing this. And at first I was like, is this I was just sort of lost in a sense. Like, not like bored, just like, we are really spending a lot of time on this. And then it hit me, and it hit me really hard because I was like, wait a minute. I know what's going on. I know some vampire shit's happening. And that's what I know. It's going down, And I was like, what he's doing here is what he's good at. And what he's good at is getting you to care about people. Empathy is something Ryan Coogler has always been very good at. And he doesn't want you to go in and watch, everybody, killed by vampires. And you're like, you don't give a shit. Like, he wants you to care about all these people. He wants you to care that the person behind Michael B. Jordan got bit in the neck. You know what I mean? That matters to him as a director, and that's the story he's going to tell. And that moment doesn't work unless you have a connection. There's a reason we still talk about PJ Souls and Halloween and not, person in hospital in Halloween 2. It just, I'm sure, I know there's someone in the comments who probably does care, but like I'm right on this. Like, there's a reason we still care about those babysitters in that first one, because the empathy, and we knew them as characters. We watched them smoke weed in the car, we watched them do all those things. And this is in the tradition of that in the right way, because there's so many horror films where, like, the people are annoying, you're like, could you just stab them, just do me a favor, because I don't want to see them anymore. And in this, I really cared. I knew exactly like who they were, who their wife was, like why they didn't want to go, what they're going to bring to it, how they were having a good time at the party, this is having this, like it was all there, all the work was done, and then with all that work done, you get why it's a tragedy that that person is now a vampire. And that is really smart. That's smart genre filmmaking, basically. That separates the Carpenters from the, maybe Sean S. Cunningham, but from the the lesser directors there, but or the junk horror directors, and I think he gets that. But he directs it in like this. Honestly, this film reminds me a lot of Spielberg in a certain sense, and like I know there's a lot of directors who try to do Spielberg, and I noticed people are getting a little more successful because they're understanding like the point of Jaws wasn't just you don't see the shark, it's like that you cared when they're on the ship. Like that's what worked about Jaws. That's why we still talk about Jaws. That's why we care about those three characters still. And you look at this one, and it's like that is why you care about the twins, you care about who they're in love with, you care about you care about the kid with the guitar. This all matters to you, and it's all built perfectly. And as soon as I figured that out, and it's very very obvious from Dusk Till Dawn ideas and stuff, I was like, whoa. But then I noticed Ryan Coogler does a thing that like I notice like even like the Coen brothers do a lot, where it's like they will be very tight to script and they'll be doing everything, and then they'll just diverge because they feel like it. And I think there's a certain thing in filmmaking, as much as people go on about plot holes and everything that makes sense, and I get it, you're a very boring person. Don't get into art if you want everything to be ones and zeros, because that is not how human emotions and humans are. And in a great director, especially a director who works in big blockbuster $100 million things like Spielberg and Coogler are, understand that, and he understands that fully. And I think there's a certain power to that, you know what I mean? And Spielberg, when he was doing all those huge blockbuster things, people would always like, but are you saying anything with it? You go like, you're making billions of dollars when no director had ever done that. You're making tons and tons of money. You're making, Indiana Jones and E.T., what are you saying with it? And I think I've read criticism of him at the time, but then, he tried, that's why he made a lot of his award stuff. But at the same time, like, I do think that is primarily the purpose of Schindler's List, is like, he did do that at the same time in Jurassic Park. But I think it's to show, like, if you have all this power as an artist, what are you using that power for? And I feel that with Coogler, because how is he has all this power. I've seen him have power over the audience. I've seen him like both with Black Panther and Creed. Actually, I watched them both on opening nights and several months out, and the audience was just as enraptured. And I was like, this is insane that he can do this. Like I saw him do it twice with 2 movies back to back, and I was really shocked. And watching a whole audience, a modern audience right now in 2025, sit there and listen to a blues song and be enraptured in it several different times throughout this movie. And not like before the movie, everyone's on their phones talking about their jobs, talking about their life, all that stuff. Obviously the movie hasn't started, it's fine. But like the fact that like everybody paid attention to an old blues song for, however, in 2-3 minutes, however long that is, that I didn't see any phones lit up. I did actually look around because I was like, is everyone quiet right now? Like, what the hell is going on? And like, that is amazing, because a lot of this film is about the power of music and the legacy of music, and there's a whole sequence about that. And I don't want to get into spoilers, but I will say, how did none of you know who Bootsy Collins is? Like, I keep hearing people say, like, a George Clinton type guitar player. I understand Bootsy Collins played the bass, and the guitar player of Parliament Funkadelic is not as well known. But in all seriousness, like, nobody noticed that was probably Bootsy Collins. Like, he's been around so much. He did the score for Superbad. You should know who Bootsy Collins is. I should not have to educate you. Look it up. But in all seriousness, like, how did everyone not just, because when I saw it, I go, oh shit, it's Bootsy Collins. That's crazy. Anyway, it wasn't directly, but like to me, that's who that was. Anyway, I'm just gonna, sorry, whatever. Sorry, it's made a lot of money. I'm sure you've all seen it. I don't mean to be, that's my only real spoiler there. But this is about the legacy of music and how important the blues is and how we wouldn't be where we are without blues. I mean, hell, look at Led Zeppelin. But I think he is really talking about like how important it is and how wonderful it is and the assimilation of the blues. And like there's certain good things about assimilation and music and tradition and how, you know, we get to where we are and how we remix things and how genre can be blended and how genre separates us and how genre can mixing them can branch together and all those things. But I think like mainly it's also about like the idea of like you don't want to lose what that music represents. You never want to lose that tradition and what that blues music represented in the first place, in the purpose of blending in with the rest of the pop culture, the rest of the mind that everyone knows. And you know, that's really interesting, especially a guy who made two huge franchises, kind of criticizing that. But I do really think it is a really smart genre film, and I'm still a little like want to analyze it and go through it more because it's sort of a very dense film. I found it maybe the most overwhelming of his movies, and I never necessarily feel that way, although I think I've seen every one of his films several times, and I do think I will be watching this one. And like with a Michael B. Jordan, I mean, goddamn, like he is really a really good actor. I really have always really liked him a lot, and I don't understand why he doesn't have a ton of Oscar nominations. Like between the first Creed and like Killmonger, like oh my god, like it's just amazing performances. But this is like he pushed himself as an actor in a place like he is very much playing two different characters. They are not the same, and it is honestly like he is playing because I think Michael B. Jordan is really good in Killmonger as a villain, like one of the best villains of superhero movies, bar none, maybe my favorite of the modern age, certainly. But like, he's also a great lead. Like if you look at the Creed films, like he's very good. Like a lot of times, the lead can be the least interesting character in the movie, but he does not play it that way. And like having him see him do both, like both all the things that he is best at once is a real treat. Like him playing Smoke and Stack in this, and you know, it's really a real, like one of the few. It's a very much a movie star performance, or one of the few movie star performances where you're like, holy shit, that's like he's a really good actor, you know. Also, Haley Steinfeld, Miles Canton, who is really good. Uminu Masuku, I think, is I think that's how I actually haven't seen. I've seen her she's in Loki and Deadpool and Wolverine, which I didn't realize that was her until afterwards. I was like, oh yeah, that's how I know her. But she was excellent, as well as Jack O'Connell as the vampires were really wonderful. I mean, just like everyone, Ryan Coogler doesn't really cast like bad actors in his movies, so but everyone in the cast was absolutely wonderful. But Michael B's sort of like obviously the standout because he's playing two roles. I've never seen an actor do like the two things do two roles, but also play the two things I most like him for at the same time. Just really, it almost felt like too much. With that, I was like, I might also watch it again just for Michael B. Although I understand that's most of the appeal for the ladies is the double Michael B's, because any woman I've asked about this movie has brought up, oh, you mean the movies with two Michael B. Jordans? I don't know if this is his best movie. And I think when he's had the kind of career he's had, that's a real big thing to say, and the legacy he's already left. But this is a pretty substantial work. I do think this is, you know, seeing him care about structure, understand structure, while at the times like play with it is really interesting. I'm really curious to see the auteur he can be by himself, although I'm pretty sure he's gonna then go do X-Files and then do like Black Panther 3, so it's probably gonna be a while before we get another thing like this. Despite all the ownership stuff, like I don't think we're getting more of this for a little bit, but what a phenomenal director, and someone who understands the power of his voice and uses it is, we can talk about auteurism all we want, which just means that you can tell a certain person has a voice, it's whatever, but you like having these big name directors use their voice in a way, I do feel like it's similar to what Spielberg does. I wouldn't say, it's sort of what Nolan did with Oppenheimer, but I don't think like that represented as much to him as Schindler's List and this did to Coogler, but I can be wrong. I mean, it's just like there's so much here, and I almost feel like, even though I've said a lot already, I honestly sort of feel like there's so much more to dig into it. It's really interesting, and it's interesting hearing him talk about it. It's interesting seeing other people. It's interesting to think about this movie. That is one thing. There's so many movies I see, and it's like, I because of life and stuff, I can't shoot these things for a little bit, and by the time I'm reviewing them, I'm like, oh man, I gotta really like remember this fucking thing. Like it's like sorry, the Plankton movie don't hit that hard, but it's really it really stayed with me, and I really keep thinking about it. Like most of his films, it is just really phenomenal thing. And I think one of the, as I've been reviewing movies, doing this YouTube channel, and maybe there are, I'm not that successful or anything like that, but being able to witness somebody's career like that, and I've seen every single one of his films in theaters, and I've been able to watch him grow as a director, I think as any movie fan, and they're all fairly big movies. Anyone who has, which I think is a lot of people, it's been a real treat to watch him grow as an artist. And I think there's not a lot of directors, and who you see like grow with their crew, between Ruthie Carter doing the costumes to Ludwig Göransson, I think is how you say his name. Seeing like these same people he works with, all even how this is shot with Autumn Arkapaw, who does a great job. Man, he really likes to make action sequences look chaotic, I will say. It's on purpose. It's very well done. But also, I almost forgot, Delroy Lindo is always good, but wow, like him as this like kind of old school like harmonica player, excellent. There's so much to talk about in this movie, but he is really, really good. He's always been a great actor, but seeing him in this as this old blues guitarist or blues harmonica player, he's really wonderful. Watching him play with all these younger actors, he's really up for the challenge. I mean, more than up, he's an amazing legacy actor who we should appreciate more. I really like this film. I think Ryan Coogler's done a pretty phenomenal job, and also he's made a film that in most cases would just be this big auteur thing, but it means something to people, and it's connecting to people, and it's because he's very good at empathy. He really wants you to care, and that has been from his first film to this film. He wants you to care if someone is hurt, and he wants you to care about his characters, and that is why he's such a good mainstream blockbuster director, and why he was a perfect Marvel director too. But I think this is a wonderful film. I don't know if it's his best film, and I think the legacy of his filmography, it's hard to live up to a lot of that, and but it's a really phenomenal film, and I really love what he did with it, and I think it's a huge statement, but it's a statement about legacy, it's a statement about ownership, it's a statement about owning your own destiny and what you have to say as an artist, and why that's important. And it's important to bring these things up, and bring these things up for all culture, to bring up our histories like this and what it says about us now and everything. And it's about all of those things, but it is also a really cool vampire movie, and I think he gets all that wrapped up into this, and it is just it's pretty astounding how good he was at bringing all of this to the screen, almost like a huge culmination from Michael B. to Coogler as a director, to everything coming together for this movie. Feels like, just feels like a very special moment, and it's kind of something you just really are kind of surprised to behold in a big movie like this one. So if you've seen Sinners and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.